to see you, woman.
Yeah, so good to see you too. It's been a while.
I know. We'll jump right in because you got baby making going on,
Yeah.
and you've had a full day. Oh my goodness! Look at that bump, Samana. Woman, oh my goodness. Well, why don't you start us off, love? Just tell us a little bit about how you found yourself on this journey. We'll start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just a little bit of background on myself and my husband. So we got married pretty young. Kids weren't really on the agenda for the first few years. We wanted to travel the world, settle in our careers. And then when I was approaching 30, we started trying, and we didn't really think much of it. We just thought it would just happen, and it didn't happen. So in the beginning, we just kind of, rolled with it. We just thought, it will happen when the time comes. But then, I just found myself more and more kind of dragged into why isn't it happening? Like it started happening for my friends. And, it just felt more and more like something's wrong or something's off. And I just kind of found myself spiraling in those thoughts. And then I kind of said to him, look, I think we should get some checkups done and at least see if something's wrong or there's anything we can do. And he agreed to it. And that was maybe a year into trying. That was, by that point was almost 2 years. I think I can't remember exactly, but it had been a while. And then we got checked up, and yeah, the issue was with him. So there was an issue, so to speak. So he had a very low sperm count, which we found out when we went to the doctors. And that they basically said, your chances are very slim, but you can continue. But we would recommend IVF, not even IUI, because obviously it's low sperm count. So then we kind of had to settle with those news and kind of think about, is that something we want to do? Is that, do we want to go down that route? We'd never really thought about fertility treatment at that point. It was a lot of information. And then we kind of settled and wanted to think about it. So a month later, we kind of decided, okay, they can put us on the wait list. Let's see what happens. And then in March 2020, obviously COVID hit. So even though we were on the wait list, everything was dragged way, way behind the schedule. We continued trying naturally. And yeah, I think when everything got cancelled and my chance for treatment was kind of removed, I was like, what's going on? Time's passing and I don't even know. I don't have a solution. I don't know what to do. And I think that's when I really realized I need to do something about this. And I realized how I got into anxiety and constant negativity, and I wasn't myself anymore. I was literally defined by this one thing. And yeah, I just felt look, I really want to be a mom, and all my friends were having babies or getting pregnant. I removed myself from them. I felt super disconnected. And yeah, and I think I discovered your book that summer, and I read it, and it was so eye-opening. And yeah, I started, introducing some of these practices and just realizing, look, a lot of it is to do with how, you portray yourself, how you see yourself. I'd never really fully visualized myself as a mom or what that would mean to me, how I would feel, all of these emotions, feelings, and reasons, and kind of, values. You talk a lot about values, all of that kind of I tried to immerse myself in it. So I do a lot of yoga anyway in my normal daily practice. So I started incorporating more meditative time, more self-care, things like that. And it did help. I kind of found a route back to myself. But then when I realized, and I started listening to your podcast and all these lovely women, I started listening to all these stories. And then I realized, look, I've done what I could, but I really want to ditch the DIY. I want to get help. So that's when that's actually the second time our treatment was canceled, when I really hit rock bottom. That was in this second crazy wave. I think it was December time, and I applied for your program and I got in. And yeah, I just started a year ago actually with your program. And yeah, I think that's when I realized I want to actually, be part of this community. And I think the first question I asked you is look, I've really distanced myself from all my friends. How can I get, how can I really speak to them again? How can I receive from them? And, we started talking about gratitude. And I kind of thought, actually, I am super grateful that I have them. I love my friends. And I started reaching out to them again and just learning from them. They had either were pregnant or were just new moms. So instead of like distancing myself, I really used them as a tool to help me to understand what that means, what that journey means, what I've got ahead of me, rather than kind of hiding. And it kind of opened up all of these emotions. And yeah, I was super happy that I kind of crossed that bridge. So that was kind of the first step. I think the second thing then really was to just work on myself, really, like the gratitude. Faith was a big topic. Like I constantly always thought there's an issue, we can't fix the issue, like always kind of thinking black and white thinking. That's when the faith thing came in, and just really believing in, you got to believe in what you really, that this is going to happen. My baby is on its way. And, starting to visualize this and acting like, I am a mom to be, which before I had never even thought about doing. It was literally just like, look, I want this. This is my dream. But I hadn't really like actively done anything about it, like in terms of mentally, preparing myself.
Isn't that an interesting point, though? I mean, I love the way you're starting us off, Samana, because it's really easy. I want to go back to something that you had said, because I think it's really powerful. And you had said, there was a problem with your partner.
Yeah.
And it would have been really easy for you to go into blame, saying, this is not my problem, this is his. Like, you did something really wise that I want to make sure we point out. And maybe I'm not sure how much you've thought about this, but it takes a lot of guts, and it takes some emotional maturity and responsibility to be able to say, this is our problem. And I'm going to look at myself, not just blame my partner. Like, do you get how powerful that was and what a masterstroke that was?
Yeah, I had never actually, said anything to him about that. For me, it was like, we're a team, we can make this work. But when I started realizing that I'm the one with the negativity, I'm the one who's spiraling, like I had to take action. Like he was always the person who was like, look, maybe, things will settle. We can't, we live in a pandemic. You can't do anything about it, but, we will get there. And he was super supportive. And, it was just that energy from him. It just really helped me like stay calm, stay focused, and not, like go back into a blame game, or like thinking about, look, we wouldn't be in this position because I only want to have a baby with him. So, that.
Well, I mean, but I think that's it's just such a powerful thing. A level of self-awareness you had to have in order to take that responsibility, not just be lazy mentally, and just pass it off to him. I mean, you really took the time to be able to say, I'm going to try this stuff out on my own. And then also get to the point where you knew that you wanted more. You knew you wanted to go deeper. You knew you wanted help. That takes some courage, Samana.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about this. Like, I think the podcast, they really like kind of psyched me for everything, but they just really helped me to see, look, it's not good enough to just think or hope. You need to know. There needs to be a sense of knowing that something's changing, something's happening, you're doing something about it. You're changing your mindset effectively. So when I started looking at, your teachings and everything on the podcast and the book, it was always about, look, you can make a decision and you can actually make the change. So I think that's when I realized, look, it is really, why not ask for help? Because actually all these women are going through the same, and I won't feel isolated and alone anymore. It's going to help me.
Yeah. And I know there's going to be so many women super psyched to see you here. Because, there's a funny thing when a woman says, I'm getting on that podcast. She has a funny way of making it happen.
Yeah.
So, isn't that crazy?
It is. And I was always like, one day I'll have this interview.
Yeah. And here you are. Well, a year later. So let's talk about what was next for you. So you started the program, you were learning amazing things, you were surrounded by extraordinary women, and you had that community. So what was next for you in the journey?
Yeah, so basically, when I finished the program, about just before I finished, about a few weeks before, we had that magical phone call. Look, our treatments are resuming, and you're next. We realize you were cancelled twice. You're next in line. So just whenever your period starts, just give us a ring. And I think I think my last session with you was just before my egg collection. And, I was super excited. I was like, look, I actually was, the way I approached the treatment was completely different. Like, I didn't think about, oh, this is the solution or whatever. Like this, it was like, I'm actively doing something, but I also realized that it's not up to me. It's not my timing. It's not up to me. I can do, I can just prepare myself mentally and think about, this could be my time, and prepare myself for that. And when I was doing the injections, when I was going through my treatment plan, I was just happy. I was just like excited. And, I was just looking forward to like the next step and what's going to happen, and just went into it with an open mind. Like I always said that to my husband as well, like, I'm not desperate. Like, it's not a place of desperation. We're trying. And this is one method of trying. So so when we then had the eggs retrieved, we had really good results from the eggs. We always knew like my fertility was good, but we had an issue with my partner. So then when we had the results back from the fertilization, only 3 fertilized. So then obviously we were a bit surprised because there were a lot of eggs, but there wasn't a lot of fertilized embryos. So then we were a bit like, okay, we have to wait till the magical day 5, see how many survived, what are the chances? And then I remember my husband being like, look, if there's even one, that's a shot, right? Like, it's the first time we're doing it. And that just really helped me like change, not having an expectation just really helped, because it's the first time doing something and you just don't really know what to expect. Then actually 2 out of the 3 made it. So, which was super rare, like 3, and normally could have been 1 that only survived, or even will survive the thawing process. Because of my hormone profile, they did a freeze-all. They couldn't do a fresh cycle. They didn't want to hyperstimulate me. They wanted to take things really easy. So we knew that we would have to wait like a couple of months till we could actually do the transfer. So I could kind of, go back into my routine and think about other things. So we knew that we had 2 attempts, basically, from our first cycle. And I was just in the middle of changing jobs, and I remember mentioning it to you, and you were like, oh, this is really exciting. It doesn't, even if you go on maternity leave, it doesn't matter. Like, this life happens, people will accept it. And that also helped me, like, making changes in my career. And I had started that job. I was about to go into like a month or so later, going into my transfer. And I started that job and absolutely hated it. It just really wasn't for me. Like, it was, so I work in digital marketing, and this was a healthcare job, and healthcare is like really, really backwards. And thanks to COVID, it had advanced a lot, but I was literally like feeling I'm not being challenged. Like, I can't find myself here. And normally I would never do this. I stuck it out for a bit. And then I realized again, thanks to your programs, like, you got to make a decision. Like, if something's not right, if something doesn't feel right, you can make a change. And then, in the summer, like, I also changed my job again twice in a year, which is crazy. Never done that before.
Yeah, but you got fearless, Samana.
Yeah, I did.
You weren't going to let any moss grow on you. Like, you were going for something you really wanted.
Exactly. But I didn't want to change too fast, because I knew I was going through this treatment. I was kind of comfortable. So I kind of let things slide at the time, in March, April time. So when it came to the transfer, which was end of May, we did the transfer, and then suddenly, like, everything, it was the time when it would be a yes or a no. And I think that's when I started trying to be in control. Like, I was constantly thinking about it, Googling, like looking up things on the internet, just really didn't help me. And it just, at some point I had to just, I knew it was a 2-week wait. It's a long time. But I wasn't really doing anything that was helping me energetically. I was just constantly trying to find information or anything, like being in control effectively. And I don't know, I just kind of lost myself a little bit. I thought maybe, I had an open mind before, and I'm now kind of going a bit backwards. I don't know what to expect. I think it was the anxiety of, now the decision will be made. Has it worked or not? And I think that really took its toll on me. And I did kind of realize that as soon as I got to the test result, but I still felt positive. I think, there is a chance. And then the test actually came back positive, and I was really surprised. And then they said, look, we need to take your bloods. We'll come back to you. And then when they took the bloods, like HCG started dropping, like from like the few days after. And they were like, look, it's not, in our eyes, it's not going to be successful. So, it's like an early miscarriage. We don't know when it will happen. And yeah, that was a major setback for me. Like, I never thought that would happen. I just thought it's either a yes or a no. Like, you don't really think you're going to be in between, and you're back to square one. And that was a major setback. And then I had like this ongoing issues with my job. And I thought, look, because of the treatment, I didn't do anything about it. And then I thought, whatever happens will happen. I just have to see this through now. But then they didn't put us, like, they didn't give us a new doctor's appointment. It's like 8 weeks to your next doctor's appointment or something, because they want you to kind of process it or something. But I didn't want to take that as an answer. So I just kind of advocated for myself, and I had to say, look, this is not what I expected. I was cancelled twice before. I really need to speak to someone, understand what happened, because, in my view, there was a positive test, and now it's suddenly like this happened, and I don't know why, and I don't know what I can do about it. I'm not getting emotional support or anything. So then they gave me counseling, which helped, and also finally spoke to a doctor 2 weeks later, which was great. And he basically talked about like progesterone, like because of hormone levels, he would actually advise me to take additional injectables next time, because that can really lead to early bleeding. So I kind of felt like, look, medically, there is an answer, but also I need to, again, go back to all the teachings I had from the program and really, really let faith, like, is it going to be this time or not? Like, really be in that open mind, similar space to what I was when we had the egg retrieval. So then I actively just wanted to kind of take a few weeks off the treatment. Like, I just didn't want to think about the treatment. Obviously, I could have gone into the next cycle, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to sort my job situation. And also, I just wanted to kind of have a break. Like, I didn't want to constantly think about next cycle. So, and I knew it was our last embryo from this treatment cycle. So then I took it a bit easy. I just, focused on my work. I randomly then had someone reach out to me and say, look, we actually have a role that you might be interested in, like a friend of mine, and she referred me. I went through a series, I think, of 6 interviews or something. And I
6 interviews?
Yeah, including a case study presentation. Like, it was super long, but I got the offer. And I remember that was in August. And they had said that they've put us into the September cycle, but I can confirm. And I was like, I'm going to go for both. I'm going to go for the job, and I'm going to go for the transfer. I'm not going to wait anymore. Like, I feel like I'm in a good headspace. Like, I can do this. And then we went into it. And this time around, and I was also in touch with another one of our ladies, Marielle, from the program. Because I had just seen
Mama Marielle. Oh,
yes,
my
exactly. She just had her baby boy. But yeah, I saw her 20-week picture in your profile. And then I reached out to her, and she said, oh, of course, I remember you, how are things? And I just told her a bit about my story. And hers was a little bit similar, that she had the first successful, but then not successful transfer and all of that. So we were just kind of talking. And I was like, oh, did you do anything different the second time? And all she said to me is, just be you. And I just remember that. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I need to let go of trying to be in control. I literally made a commitment to myself. I'm not going to go on the internet, find any symptoms or anything like that. I'm just going to have the transfer and be myself. And
amen to that.
And I had just signed up to a new gym because I was on my notice period, so I had lots of free time. So I just did all the crazy classes like aerial yoga and whatnot. So I just kind of enjoyed myself, met lots of friends, just had something to look forward to every single day in the 2-week wait. And one of the things, as I was leaving, actually, when we had the transfer and I was leaving the room, because my husband couldn't be there because of COVID, he could only wait. But when I came out, and one of the doctors, she said, oh, this was all perfect transfer. Like, everything looks great, good luck. And I had never, ever before anyone comment on like a potential outcome. And for me, like, that was just like so nice to have someone, like share an emotion. And I don't know, suddenly it just made me feel really good and positive. And it's like, when someone supports you, and it's like what we talk about, and like bum squad and all of that. So I felt like really supported. And when I was leaving, I kind of had this feeling, even though obviously you're not going to feel anything, it's going to take 2 weeks, but I just had a feeling everything's going to be okay. And, this is, if whatever happens, I'm going to be a mom, whatever happens, if it's this one or not, like, and I'm going to have a healthy baby. And I just had this really strong, warm feeling. And that I just felt okay. Like, I just didn't, I didn't feel the need to research anything or look anywhere, or just, wanted to enjoy myself. And in order to make it more bearable, I just planned like a nice activity for every day, so I wouldn't really think about it. And, and also I took a learning from my previous one to take the day of getting my results off, because I think it's the worst thing when you get your results and you're at work.
Yeah.
So I took that day off. Smart move, I think, on my behalf.
Yes.
And then I went in for the bloods 2 weeks later. I didn't take a urine test before because I didn't want to. Last time I tested early on day 10, and it obviously it didn't work out. So I was like, look, I'm literally just gonna hear it on the phone call. I just don't want to do a test. And then, they called me back, and it was a positive result. And HCG looked great, and they congratulated me. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I couldn't really believe it. I just really couldn't believe it. I remember being so surprised, but also so grateful and so happy. Like, I had lots of emotions. And and my husband was next to me. He was like, what did they say? What did they say? And I just shared the news. And then we just took it easy because of the previous story and everything. I just wanted to make sure, I'm just going to enjoy this for now, whatever it is, however long it lasts, and try and feel a connection. So I continued everything from the program, like my morning meditation, just being more mindful. One of the things you also talk about is like being present. So like being more mindful when you're like out and talking to people, like, when you feel things, actually feeling them, not stopping you from feeling things. So I think for me, I'm like super rational person. So that was a big shift. I think I messaged you when I was about 12 weeks or 14 weeks or something. So it's going really well this time around. And
how far along are you today?
Almost 22.
Oh my goodness. Oh man, Samana. Well, so let's talk about this, because you are really demonstrating the power of staying consistent and going back and really taking charge, because this second round, you also made a decision that you weren't going to slip into the crazy, that you were going to be present, you were going to really let go of all of
exactly
control.
Just let whatever, just let the universe decide what's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to influence anything. That was my mentality the second time around.
That's like the holy grail. Like, that's like, I mean, that's like everyone is trying to get to that place. So what was that? I mean, what was important to you about that? Because a lot of people talk about wanting to get to that place, but very few have the courage to actually do that. Tell me why, or tell us actually why that made a difference.
I think it's the feeling. Like when you're trying to be in control, like after my first one, when you're trying to constantly test or check or, find out anything, like research, it's just going to fuel your anxiety. You're just going to feel less sure about what's going on. You can't influence it either way. Like, and I remember one of my nurses saying, like, after transfer, she's like, oh, if it was that easy to decide whether you're pregnant or not, like, would teenage girls who don't want a baby, wouldn't they just do a couple of backflips and then they're not pregnant anymore? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you can't decide, like, you can't possibly do anything wrong. with you, you know, it's not in your power. It's just up to the baby. It's, you know, up to a higher power if this is the time, if this baby wants to settle or not. And
that's such a huge difference, Samana. Like from the gripping and, you know, the freak out and the stress. I mean, I love that you and Maria were chatting because that's exactly what she did too. Was
yeah,
to
exactly.
really let go.
Exactly. And I think when I actually did let go and made the active decision, really stayed away from any of that crazy, I just felt good. I felt at peace. I felt like, look, whatever happens, I'll be there. You know, it will happen, whatever, you know, I just don't know the time. You know, this could be my time, but it couldn't, you know, but either way, I'm going to just focus on myself, my happiness, and just seeing it as a journey, not like, oh, this is the solution, like either it's a yes or a no, you know, like I think that really narrows our thinking, and it makes us kind of, it's a step backwards, at least it was for me. And by letting go, by feeling like, you know, I'm being myself and this is exactly how I'm going to be with my baby, you know, when they eventually turn up. So it made me feel closer to that. It made me feel closer to my dream, and knowing, a sense of knowing, and, you know, trust. I think we talk a lot about trust. It was also one of my values to really trust my body, trust my baby. I think I just, yeah, the feeling was completely different. And my husband was saying as well, it's like, oh, are you not thinking about whether it's positive or not? And I was like, no, I'm not. I just want to, you know, obviously it's somewhere there will be an answer either way, but I just want to feel at ease. I just don't want to stress myself anymore.
Isn't that a dramatic change? Like, I remember the very first conversation that we had, like, and then there was that Samana, and then there's Samana that, you know, that we have here today, and went through her last cycle, like completely fearless and in a completely different way. I mean, that is a dramatic shift.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about it, the odds really weren't in our favor. Like that second embryo was classed like a low grade embryo, whatever they call it. But I didn't think about it. I was like, I don't care what you call it. For me, it's a chance to have a baby. And it is actually a baby for me. So even if you call it lower quality, or, you know, even if you say it's just one more, you know, I just didn't really care about any of that anymore. I just wanted to see, you know, either this is my shot or it isn't.
Wow. You know, that's such a huge point too. I love that. I love that you trusted your baby so much that you were not going to let somebody call it a low quality embryo.
Yeah.
That just brings the humanity back though. Don't you think that's such a powerful thing? Like, don't call this, you know, low quality. This is my baby, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I just didn't want to take no for an answer anymore from them. Like, oh, you know, we don't know if it's gonna work. You know, we can only try, like things like that. And I just didn't really care about that. I just, you know, for me was yeah.
Wow. I mean, when I think about how much you changed, I mean, this all happened in a year, Samana.
Yeah. If you think about it, I finished in March. Yeah, and I'm gonna have my baby in May. So
I mean, it's just crazy. So, you know, and you did, I mean, you were always there doing the work. You did your work, you showed up to the calls, you were an active participant, you know, you made friends, you had community around you, you always, you know, you kept things up. You know, you had a little setback, but what did you do? You went back to the lesson, you went back to the tools, and look at where you're at today.
yeah, I remember messaging you about it, and that's what you said as well. You said, look, use your tools. This is a huge sign. Like this baby is giving you a huge sign. And, you know, my test could have been straight negative, right? Like I just, you know, I never thought about it that way. And then, you know, when I had that exchange with you, it just made me realize, look, this is a journey. Like it's not, yes, I did the program, but the learnings happen every day. You know, the changes that you see for yourself, you need to constantly keep working on yourself. It doesn't just stop. Like even now,
exactly.
Even now that I'm pregnant, like I still have some anxiety, like I worry a lot. And I just have to keep trusting. I just have to, realize, look, everything's going to be okay. Like, I trust myself, I trust my baby, and, I'm going to have this baby. So I just made this decision, and I constantly like remind myself, like that in a playlist that we talk about in the program, like I still use the tools to this day. It's just become, it's a routine for me. I just don't really think about it anymore.
You keep hammering on the decision. I mean, like, clearly you were listening, because I mean, it's such a big deal to decide I'm going to be successful, whether it is this cycle, a few down the road. I'm not leaving without my baby. I've made the decision that I'm going to be a mother. I mean, I love that that's in you, because that's going to serve you for the rest of your life.
With anything, I'm always like, oh, I'm going to claim this for me. No one can take it from me.
That's right. No one's getting in Mama Samana's way. Well, so I mean, based on all of this, and clearly in the success that you created for yourself, what would you want the women listening to know? Like, remember back to when you were listening to this podcast, and women were giving their 2 cents and their, hard-won wisdom here. Like, what would you want the ladies listening to know?
To actually, the first thing would be to really think about this dream that they have, like to be a mom. For me, I never really felt it, like really immersed myself in it, visualized it, or, went to buy baby clothes and see how it made me feel, or, things like that, to actually not just think about, oh, I want to be a mom. What does that mean for you? How do you feel when you think about, holding your baby, like all of those things. So first, that would be my first thing to remember. And the second one is that it's about growth. Like, we don't just, obviously complete the program and, we fall pregnant. Like, it's not about that. It's about learning from your past mistakes, maybe, but also about, constantly making changes, like thinking about it as, yes, it is a journey, and I know what the result is, because I will be successful, but I just don't know when. And, constantly working on yourself and really believing it. I think it's easier said than done when we say, I really believe I'm going to be a mom, but you actually really need to believe it. And there's different tools to practice that. But I think, those 2 things I would share.
Yeah. And that's so good, because, I love that you're basically advocating that, look, this isn't destination thinking. This is a process. And I love that you're also highlighting that, look, it doesn't just stop when you get pregnant. You've got 40 full weeks of pregnancy to go. You use your tools throughout that. The point is to get and stay pregnant and support a healthy pregnancy. And that's exactly what you're doing now.
Yeah. And when I started learning a lot more about, like, the connection with myself and the baby, like every thought that I have, every feeling I have, like really transfers to the baby. So like, it's really good to, keep up your affirmations, to really have those, the same feelings and, meditation you were doing before. It can only serve you and your baby. So yeah, I would really recommend continuing with all of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Samana. I mean, this is just, it's incredible to see as an observer the transformation of, who you were and then who you have become and are becoming, because think about what you're going to be able to teach your baby.
Yeah,
like, you're going to be able to model this. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be able to teach them so much about themselves and not taking no for an answer, because you don't take no for an answer.
Yeah. I think it's just teachings for life, really. Like, I'm just so grateful for having found you, having done the program. Like, it just was amazing, and it just really changed my perspective on so many things, and just, it taught me lessons for life, really. So I just want to thank you as well for all the support, and even like beyond completing the program and everything you do for us, the podcast, I still listen to it. So just really happy.
Oh my gosh, it's my honor. And and I just love seeing my ladies not just having babies, but creating amazing careers and applying this all over their lives, because there is something to becoming fearless, not just on this journey, but across the board in your life. So thank you for being such a shining example of that, Samana. It's such a pleasure. And the fact that we're having this day is just, I won't be able to wipe the smile off my face for the rest of the day. So thank you so much,
you for
my love.
having me.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Love this episode of the Fearlessly Fertile podcast? Subscribe now and leave an awesome review. Remember, the desire in your heart to be a mom is there because it was meant for you. When it comes to your dreams, keep saying hell yes.